Welcome, everyone. It is 8 p.m. and I know that many of you still have some daily work to do today after our presentations. So in the interest of time, I think we will get started. My name is Lisa Cavallero. I'm the Executive Director of the Ayurvedic Accreditation Commission. And this evening, I am joined by Maeve Mangine, who is our Assistant Director, and as well as some of our several esteemed board members. Thank you all for your generous support of our commission. And this is our third fundraiser that we have done. And we are really, truly grateful for your continued support of our mission to uphold the excellence of Ayurvedic education and professional standards. So your contribution to our fundraisers helps us to continue that mission, and we are so very grateful for your support. I think we will have a very interesting and enlightening presentation this evening. For any of you who have seen Vaidya Jay's presentations or YouTube videos, you know that he is really just a wonderful presenter. So with that, I will do a brief introduction for him. But before I do that, I want to go over a few housekeeping items with you. So tonight we're planning on a presentation of about 60 minutes, and we will have about 15 minutes of Q&A after Jay's presentation. We'll ask that any questions that you have to please type them in the chat function, and Maeve and I will be moderating that. We find that that just makes the session go a little smoother. So as you have some questions, please feel free to type them in the chat. And as time permits, we will try to get to all of them during that Q&A period. We ask that you keep yourself muted since this is being recorded and will be available for viewing afterwards, that folks keep themselves muted, and also feel free to keep your video turned off as well. Since, as I said, this will be available to the public as a recording. Speaking of recordings, we will be sharing a recording of this evening along with the presentation slides. So both audio and video will be probably shared within the next week or so. So all registrants will get a copy of this recording for their reference. And finally, just for those of you who are attending this evening who are NAMA professional members and have registered for PACE credits, if you put in your membership number when you registered for our presentation this evening, you will be receiving a PACE credit for this evening. So thank you for your support as well. So without further ado, it is really my pleasure and an honor to introduce Vaidya Jay, also by Jay, to our group this evening. So he is a world-renowned speaker, as many of you know, and a professor of Ayurvedic medicine. He has more than 23 years of experience in clinical practice and teaching, and Jay just brings just such a wealth of knowledge and insight to our community. As I said earlier, if any of you have seen his presentations or watched his videos, he just is such a wonderful communicator and is truly passionate, obviously, about the work that he does. He's a faculty member at the American University of Complementary Medicine and also Southern California University of Health Science, and in addition, the Japan School of Ayurveda. Jay has a master's degree in Ayurvedic medicine from the Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Sciences in Bangalore, India, and also a master's degree in acupuncture and oriental medicine from Southern California University of Health Sciences. His areas of specialty include pain management, chronic health conditions, digestive imbalances, women's health therapies. So on behalf of the entire AAC board, We warmly welcome you, Vaidya J, and extend our heartfelt thanks for your generous contributions, not only for us this evening, but also to the field of Ayurvedic medicine. So thank you and welcome. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lisa. Namaste to everybody. Thank you, AAC, for giving me this opportunity to present a topic that is very near and dear to me. And it so happened it came in consecutive presentations. Dr. Ksirsagar Suhas had presented on concepts of longevity, and now I'm presenting the herbs and formulations that are for longevity. And I will start off with the permission of the divine, the presentation of Dhanvantari to guide us in this presentation. As I speak, I'm channeling him through my consciousness. Om Namami Dhanvantarim Adidevam Surasurairvandita Padapadmam Loke Jararuk Bhayamrutyunasham Dataramishan Vividaushadinam Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. And thank you. So I thought only as humans we were interested in longevity and healthy long life, but my two canine friends, my family is here too. They are listening to me. So if they get excited, if they start barking, please excuse me, because they also need longevity. So jokes apart, longevity is being a quest of every form of life. Charaka says that any form of life has to thrive and protect the conglomeration of body, mind, and soul. We all know this. And when this life is protected and promoted, then as far as humans are concerned, we graduate from dharma to artha to kama and moksha. So why do we have to live longer? It's the path. These are the four things that Ayurveda says. That's why you have to live a long life, because ultimately moksha means liberation from the cycle of birth and death, that is pain and suffering, is what is need to be understood in this lifespan that has been given to us. So every form of life thrives and tries to protect itself, including humans, but in ourselves, we have advanced quite a bit in this aspect. Now, believe it or not, in the last 5 years, there have been so many venues where longevity is coming out. There are influencers, there are doctors, there are tech people who are questing longevity. It has become such a hot topic. And here is Ayurveda, which is an ancient system of medicine, time tested, proven, standing with open arms to take into its arms and then nurture one who wants to live a long, healthy life. That's what I feel. Ayurveda is not a technique or a procedure that makes you live longer. Ayurveda is something that is seen as a system of life, or if you want to say a process of living in which you will achieve longevity without much effort. This we see in the recent times. How many of you, I don't know, have seen this Don Buettner's documentary called as Live to 100 and the Blue Zones? So I was attending a integrative medicine conference, and the keynote speaker was the one who had done some studies in these blue zones to find out what is that one thing that these people do to promote their health and achieve longevity without much effort. But for her surprise, first thing, the low calorie diet tossed, because they eat a lot of olive oil and a lot of goat cheese in certain parts. They'll eat large quantities of vegetable oils and things like that. High protein diet tossed, because they eat very less protein. And what surprised me as an Ayurvedic observer and a enthusiast is that when we look at these regions, they are perfectly matched to the people who live in that zones, and they curate their diet, their herbs, their lifestyle to what the nature has provided them. That's where Ayurveda comes. It's not something that is to be, forced upon, or somewhat, administered, but it is just adopted as a lifestyle. That is what Ayurvedic longevity is. It tells you what is longevity, and what are the techniques, what are the methodology that we have, and then it allows you to pick and choose. It's so personalized. Even when we look at the herbs and formulations, it is so personalized for one's own longevity. Not all herbs that are called as anti-aging or adaptogens or nervines or nootropics. No, those are all fancy words. But what Ayurveda says is, just look at what really suits you and then curate your own rejuvenation and longevity program. I'm excited to present this because longevity is a topic that is going to be such big topic in the next few decades to come. I'll remind you this, that in the last 10 years, American life expectancy has come down, which is a sad news, even though we spend so much of health expenditure is increasing, but the life expectancy is reducing, which shows that there is some big lacuna or a vacuum that is not making sense. Because if you are able to do such great healthcare, why should you not thrive in life, and then longevity becomes part of everybody in the society? But what we see is that it has become somebody else's responsibility, right? Healthcare in America is providers' responsibility, insurance responsibility. Personal responsibility is zero. Everybody thinks if they get sick, there's somebody to take care, and they completely bank on the system. But Ayurveda says, no, that's not going to be sustainable. Please look at what works for you and then curate your own program. That's what the longevity stands for us. So what is the purpose of Ayurveda is the question. Because the first chapter of this Bible that we use in Ayurveda, called Charaka Samhita, which is written about anywhere between 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, that book starts with Dirganjivitiyam Adhyayam. So the first chapter is not how to manage fever, how to manage diarrhea, how to manage arthritis. No, it doesn't start with that, because even though it is, as book that deals with medical topics, it starts with how do we live a long life. Dirgan jivita. Dirga means long, jivita means life. So first question is, how do we live a long life? So in this textbook, that book is, the author is saying, what is the purpose of my compilation or my treatise? He says that dhatu samya kriya chokta. So translation is very, very straightforward. The purpose of my book is to bring tissue or bodily tissues. It may be epithelial tissue, it may be connective tissue, it may be skeletal tissue, it may be muscular tissue. Any of these tissues that make up the body, that we call as dhatus, are to be appropriated. Appropriation and proliferation. Dhatu samya kriya. Samya means to achieve homeostasis and perfection in these tissues. That's what dhatu samya kriya. Cha ukta tantrasyasya prayojanam. My textbook is not for taking care of diseases. Yes, that is important for me. But my main goal is to achieve the tissues or the body elements to become more supportive to each other, sustain each other, and prolong life. Not just any ordinary life, a life that is full of joy, happiness, and health. That's what he says. So given this, we will look, because if first I need to give you a context. Ayurveda is a book, Ayurveda is a knowledge, and the Charaka as a textbook is first guiding us that longevity is the motto behind the body of knowledge. And longevity, I think, for me and also for Ayurveda, it is a attitude and a commitment, right? I will not talk about the processes like the Panchakarma procedures or something like that, but at least I'll give you some nuggets here. For example, a oil massage, self-oil massage, is a commitment. Okay, and this commitment has to be for life, because all that happens with Ayurvedic rejuvenation or longevity processes are cumulative. If you take 1 tablespoon of Chyawanprash for 1 week and expect your age to be, quickly, anti-aging, Ayurveda says no. It says that one has to make this as a lifestyle process. Right? That's why I emphasize that even when we talk about the herbs, you should be committed. Ayurveda, when he says vidheye paramadaraha, ayurvedopadesheshu, whatever has been said in Ayurveda, one should commit and admire them and make them as their attitude. In concise, an attitude can be translated as habit, or even like rituals or routines. Longevity is equal to routine or habits, right? So let's go into with a mindset that it is something that we need to keep in mind, that we need to commit. I love this study that was done in Sweden by Dr. Carlos Lopez, right? He, in this paper, he talks about the hallmarks of aging, right? And then he says that it's not limited, it keeps on expanding into a whole new universe because of aging being looked upon much more critically, because as the societies are becoming affluent, longevity is becoming not only a admiration or desire, but also looking from a policy point of view, from political, socio-economical point of view. I'm saying this because a country like Japan, right? Longevity is seen. People live more than the average lifespan in Japan is 83 and above, right? But if you look at the burden, the health cost burden, it is so high because these people have chronic illnesses and they cannot manage their own health and their day-to-day activities. They need caregivers, so the cost goes up exponentially, right? So this is from a whole bigger, larger perspective. This is very fascinating, and I can show you Ayurveda addresses each one of these topics. So how does aging get impacted, right? So aging gets impacted by, you look at the pink area of the circle, there is stem cell exhaustion. So that means the stem cells that produce new cells in the body, they start producing less and less and less, and they get exhausted, number one. Number two is altered intercellular communication. Cells don't communicate with each other properly, because that is very much essential to keep cells from doing their process of protein synthesis, and cell communication is vital to that. Then, very important, chronic inflammation, right? Ayurveda also, we'll touch base in a minute, how Ayurvedic herbs can reduce inflammation, and all rasayanas in one way or the other address that, the inflammation. Because as we are advancing to a more, societies that are technically, or technological, not technically, technologically impacted societies, our inflammation also keeps on increasing. So how does Ayurveda help with that, and what herbs we can choose to reduce that? And then you will see that there is dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is at the core of Ayurvedic rejuvenation, because if the Agni or the gut is not properly functioning, the tissue nourishment will never be accomplished. So that's one part. Then all the cellular parts are on one side. I mean, the epigenetics and genomics. So genomic, instability. That means because of lifestyle and influences that we have, our the gene expression is also changing. It's very unpredictable nowadays, right? There is positive and negatives of this, genomics, but there is more of instability. That may explain why people are dying earlier, because even though they had better genes from their ancestors, but they are changing those gene patterns to make some disease expressions possible, right? Then telomere, shortening of the telomeres, or non-proliferation of telomeres, or the ends of our chromosomes, which is very important. If the telomeres are longer, then it is said that one's lifespan is longer. If they are shorter, then it shows, so they correlate physical aging and biological aging to these telomeres. And then there are fascinating studies going on this telomere studies, based and aging process. Then epigenetic alterations. That is also important, how the epigenetics, I was telling, genomics and epigenetics, they intermingle with each other. Then loss of proteosis. So what happens is, the very process, the protein synthesis that happens in our DNA, that also gets altered nowadays, because if you see that we have microplastics which can interfere with the protein synthesis and can change a protein sequence, that is also being said as cause for the aging process. Now the last three, which seem to be cellular senescence, then mitochondrial dysfunction, and then the deregulation of nutrient sensing. These three are directly related to our nutritional, lacking that we have in our, because soil qualities have reduced, the water quality is reduced. So all of that is impacting our longevity. Now with that, it is so complex, don't you think so? Because the aging process is so, multifaceted. Ayurvedic approach is also multifaceted. I'm only going to talk about the herbs today, but you will see there is, fasting as anti-aging. There is rasayana in terms of panchakarma as anti-aging. We also see attitude, or what we call as achara rasayana, one's lifestyle as anti-aging. So many venues which can address each part of this, aging cycle, right? So with that background, I'm going to talk about what Ayurveda says about aging, right? Generally, aging is seen as Vata's predominance, and it is considered as Sahaja Vyadi. Sahaja Vyadi means a disease that happens naturally. That means we have Balyavastha, that is, from the birth, from infant to the Yavana, that is youthfulness to mature, that is prouder to Vridapya. Vridapya means where the tissues started proliferating from the time birth, or even at the time of conception. They started dividing and then making more and more cells. When it gets into the time of Vridapya, that is old age, these cells that were being produced at a rate that the body could sustain itself is slowing down, right? That is because we in Ayurveda say that it is the Vata phase of life. Vata, as you all know, is light, dry, cold, minute, mobile, such qualities. It will infuse these qualities into the tissues, and the tissues, get deficient. So we have to address the Vata. Yes, that is true. But what is the ultimate goal is to keep the dhatus in their pristine functioning levels. We are not going to create new dhatus, but whatever dhatus the body is capable of producing, we will be able to produce high quality dhatus, right? That is rasayana. Okay. So wrinkles, vali, palitya, very wonderful, subjective and objective observation here. Then reduction of hair density, that is keshapatana, dry skin. So all of these first 4 of them are related to the appearance, the skin. So one looks at, oh, you look young or you look old, but just appearance. That's why anti-aging is so much related to cosmetic well-being, which is really the surface of anti-aging in Ayurveda. Don't get me wrong here. Ayurveda does want you to have healthy hair and then nice skin, all of that, but it only says it's the golden line of the cloud. But there is much more to that. Then you'll see tremors. That's because Vata is unstable, dhatus will become unstable, right? Lack of integrity of muscles, joints, and bones. Respiratory decline and reduction in lung capacity, right? So from an Ayurvedic point of view, dhatus are reducing, prana is also reducing from a life force or life supportive energy, aspect, it is also reducing, right? So then comes deterioration of intellect, vision, sensory perception, and then lastly, the hearing also diminishes, because Vata, wherever it goes, it produces either hyperfunction or hypofunction, because Vata is always unpredictable, right? So this is part of physical aging according to Ayurvedic classical textbooks. Then how about metabolic changes due to aging? Diminished appetite, Agni Sada. Agni Sada means the amount of gastric secretions, the amount of pancreatic secretions, the amount of bile secretions, or even duodenal secretions will gradually come down. As a result, one cannot digest all the things that they consume. So if the metabolism is not good, then the assimilation or absorption is also reduced, right? Then unpredictable state of metabolism. Sometimes they can, as the age progresses, we'll be able to, sometimes I can eat my meal, but sometimes I cannot, is what happens to the body, because the vata's unpredictability sinks into the the agni as well. Then impaired bowel movements, that is malabadhata and ruksha koshta, that is the gut becomes more and more dry. First and foremost thing for Ayurveda, if you want to age in a gracious and improve longevity, gut needs to be moist. Always gut has to be moist. The moist or well lubricated the gut is, the longer the person's lifespan is. Right? Lastly, reduce tissue metabolism, dhatu agni kshaya, all the tissues, because if the gut metabolism slows down, Ayurveda says that the tissue metabolism also slows down. So that may be the reason why we have rasayanas that may not be directly related to tissue building or making the tissue proliferate, but there are many rasayanas that only work on the gut. So this makes perfect sense, because dysbiosis can happen, right? Dysregulation of nutritional, substances can happen, right? That is what we saw in the modern science. But Ayurveda has been looking at this from the beginning, that the metabolism is at the core of anti-aging. Then now come to, aging is natural, but what about the type of aging that we see as premature aging? That's what Ayurveda says need to be addressed or taken care of right away. Because premature aging is very much close to cell death or to the lifespan being reduced. For that reason, we have Kalaja and Akalaja. Kalaja, Jara. Jara is the word that we use for, in fact, there is an entire branch in Ayurveda which is all about geriatrics, Jara, and in which they say Kalaja Jara, Akalaja Jara. Timely, or, the way that body, 100 years of living, that is what Ayurveda says. If 100 years of living is achieved in a timely fashion, we say it is kalaja, because every person, we are not permanent, we are not immortals. So it says that you have to achieve the moksha, that is about 100 years of human experience that you need to have. That is how the body will slowly break down. That is acceptable. But what is not acceptable is akalaja. That means something that happens as premature. So unwarranted, unnatural, and then early signs of aging. If you look at in the classical textbooks, they very immaculately point out it's because of pitta. It's not because of vata. It's because of pitta. That's why I was saying the inflammation is the most important aspect to prevent premature aging. This tells why our great sages said that, look at pitta. If you unleash too much of pitta in middle part of your life, your later part of your life will be faster deteriorating, because vata has even more destructive abilities, right? Okay, now let's look at from a tissue point of view, or what we call as dhatu, right? We have three dhatus, which is rasa, rakta, and mamsa. So the tissues can start depleting from the rasa to rakta to mamsa and go on, or they can start from deeper tissues like shukra or majja or asti. So these two. Now the most important thing, you believe it or not, is the Medodhatu. Recent studies, research points out that adipose tissue is the new anti-aging or preventing, early aging tissue. If you look at the, functions that are assigned to each of the dhatus in Ayurveda, rasa is for nourishment, prinana. Rakta is for bringing jivana, the prana circulation through entire tissues and the body. Mamsa is to lepa, that means to wrap around and hold the structures in position. Meda is snehana, lubrication. This is very important to bring about cellular communication. If cells communicate with each other, then the aging process slows down naturally. If the dryness persists, if the cells separate from each other, then the aging process hastens. Right? So, Medo Dhatu, that may be the reason why you see many Ayurvedic therapies involve a lot of internal and external oil enemas, even for that matter, compound Ayurvedic formulas like Chavanaprash or Ashwagandha Lehyam. These have significant amount of either ghee as a fat or sesame oil as fat, because they know how important that adipose tissue is or fat tissue is. Right? So adipose tissue sits in the center. You have 3 depletions going from this side and 3 tissues going from this side. So that's what we want to look at. How do we keep all tissues well, coordinated and cohesively functioning, right? So what is rasayana? The definition of rasayana is like labo payo hi shastanam rasadinam rasayan. This is the first simplest definition that Charaka gives. He says that whatever benefits all the 7 tissues of the body, which make up our physical makeup, our physical entity of our body, that has to be nourished or sustained. It may be lifestyle or diet or body therapies or panchakarma or even herbs. Whichever brings about that action is called as rasayana. Labo payo hi shastanam. Labha means achieve a perfection, right? Or benefit and give excessive, not only excessive but appropriate nourishment to the dhatus. Okay, so labhopayuishastanam rasadinam rasayan. So the body's essential nutrients reach to all tissues is what is rasayana. Now the larger, this is the, I promise, this is the only Sanskrit statement that I have, because sometimes if a lot of Sanskrit words come in, the communication becomes a little difficult. But this is at the core of our talk, of our presentation today. So that's why I need to take up this. What are the outcomes? What do we achieve when rasayana is put into play? Right? So it says, Dirgamayuhu smrutim, medam arogyam tarunam vayaha. Right? Prabhavarna swadaudaryam, dehendriya palamparam, vak siddhim pranatim kantim, labatena rasayanat, labhopayohi shastanam, that last part, labhopayohi shastanam, rasadinam rasayanam. So going to the meaning, it's here. So what does it do? Of course, it supports longevity. Dirgamayuhu, smriti. So how beautifully they are connected. One has to live longer, but should have the memory. Number one, memory. We know that how difficult it will be if a person has a really healthy body, but has no ability to recollect. And we have seen that the conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia, senile dementia, and Parkinson's can be really reducing or making somebody's quality of life miserable, right? Charaka says that you have a healthy body, you're achieving longevity, but immediately look at how you can improve the memory, right? There are Vaidya rasayanas, we'll talk about it in a minute. Empowering intellect, right? Why intellect? Because the society, respect in the society, or people seeking out to knowledge is possible when somebody has a good intellect. Intellect is to contemplate thoughts and then, uh, give suggestions or advice. So if, sorry. So they got excited when there was intellect. So they thought that they have to put their intellect in there. Sorry. I hope you're able to hear me. I'll continue. So promoting health, sense of youthfulness, that is how the body becomes very, youthful in terms of the tissues being supported. Improvement in color and complexion, that's coming from inside out, right? That's very important for Ayurveda. Resonant voice, reinforcement of the sensory organs. So sensory health, intellectual health, also recollecting, memory health. These are very important for healthy functioning, because not only at the time of functioning, but also in achieving moksha, Ayurveda says that these three things are very important, right? Then stamina to do everyday tasks, that is bala, and then vocabulary for speech and coordination, because that is another, there's a set of Ayurvedic herbs that only promote ability to speak, right? Communicate clearly, right? That is so important. Then reverence to the reverence in the society, that is what, if you become resourceable, if you have still value to contribute, then the society will respect you. The more society respects, you will see that you're not a burden on the society. See, one of the most common things that discourages people to live a long, healthy life, they'll lose their purpose, right? So Ayurveda says to hold the purpose, you have to be resourceable, you have to have that intellect and then memory. Glowful appearance, who doesn't want it? And then finally, beneficial for all 7 tissues of the body. So these are the outcomes of Rasayana therapy when we do it. So how do we achieve it with the herbs? First thing, we talked about how the gut is so important. Ayurveda says that when the Agni is good, when Agni is well balanced, when the koshta, that is the GI, entire GI, upper, middle, and lower GI, if they are working really well, that's number 1 requirement for healthy long life. Ayurveda has to address this on a daily basis, not only for just metabolic or digestive purposes, but from a longevity point of view, it is very important to keep that gut-brain axis going. Studies show that even 20 years before the person develops Alzheimer's, the similar inflammatory changes are happening in the gut nervous system, right? So if the memory has to improve, gut has to be healthy. If the intellect has to function well, gut has to be healthy. So Ayurveda has picked on this right from the beginning. It doesn't talk about gut microbiota, etc., but it only says gut function. Number 1 is gut function. So this is a study that has been done and then published in British Medical Journal. You can see that it is showing that people who are having healthy guts live a long life. So Ayurveda focuses on that. And then we have here number 1 of our herbs, the star herb, which Charaka highlights in his textbook. Number 1 rasayana, you may be thinking it may be amalaki. No, it is haritaki. Haritaki, which is Terminalia chibula, is the number 1 rasayana according to Charaka. So he starts with haritaki is the rasayana for longevity because it starts with the gut, right? So haritaki, I have put down some qualities of it. This will remind you because you might have studied somewhere, or you may be looking at for the first time. The quality of haritaki is light and slightly drying. It is having 5 tastes, sweet after digestion, and then warm in its potency. Because of this, it helps to keep the vata, which is the number 1 dosha, which is for, it will contribute to the aging process is kept under check. Because why it is important to keep it checked in the gut? Once, if it is created in excess in the gut, where does it go? It goes and settles down in the tissues. That's the problem. So you don't allow the vata to create in excess in the gut, eliminate it, and then clear it up on a daily basis, then there is no accumulation of vata as we age. And then that will be the most important thing for us to keep in mind. So I put down a small, Sanskrit, 2 words in there, prana rasayana. For me, haritaki is for helping the prana to be abundant in the body. That may be the reason why Charaka chose haritaki over amalaki. Nowadays, we see everything being praised for, amalaki. But from a Charaka's point of view, haritaki is the number one because it controls the vata right at the level of gut. Second, here are some studies that I wanted to show you, some evidence. So this is a randomized, double-blind placebo study that was done, the RCT, which shows that when people take the haritaki, it helps with the entire body. After a certain time, it shows up in skin's secretions, sebaceous secretions, skin temperature. This study was done in UCA, Davis, and Dr. Raja Shivmani shared this with me, and he said that it's unbelievable how the gut biome and the skin biome reciprocate with each other. That may be the reason when you do rasayana for the gut, the skin becomes more healthy and the glow comes and a person looks more younger, right? This is direct correlation to the haritaki's ability to regulate gut biome. Second thing is the ability to inhibit intestinal bacteria. Nowadays, we find that the type of diet and the amount of diet that we consume has disturbed or even dysregulated our gut. And a lot of people suffer from a condition called as small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO. Right? So if our body is producing nourishment and the organisms, instead of supporting the body's ability to assimilate, if they start consuming our nutrition, that is not healthy. Right? Our, the nutritional fluid, instead of getting into all the tissues, it's being consumed by the gut bacteria that are abnormally displace themselves, or dysbiosis. It can be addressed on a daily basis if we take, haritaki. That may be the reason haritaki is, in a later textbook, he says, which is from Bhav Prakasha, written in about 16th century AD, he says, one who knows how to use the haritaki should be really an Ayurvedic practitioner. Otherwise, he is not qualified as an Ayurvedic practitioner. So learn haritaki, how to use it. And he even goes saying, Charvita Vardayatagni, you take one haritaki and you can use it in so many forms. You, make it into a paste and then consume. It'll give you a nice bowel movement. You steam cook it, it'll stop diarrhea. If you eat it with the meal, it helps in increasing the Agni. If you mix it with salt, it'll reduce Vata. If you mix it with what is that, ghee, it'll reduce Pitta. So there is so many ways of it, because all of it is addressing the gut. Right? Haritaki is our number one herb for rasayana purposes, as it works directly on the gut and especially Vata. Then comes the next most famous rasayana called as Amalaki. Amalaki is Embolica officinalis. Embolica officinalis, I see that it is the Pitta balancing rasayana in the gut. So if you look at it, it addresses the Pachaka Pitta, the gut-based, digestive secretions. Liver-based digestive secretions we call as, Ranjaka Pitta. It'll also help with the eyes, the alochaka pitta. So pitta, starting from the source, amalaki can regulate it. That's because if you look at amalaki is cold and it is also sweet after digestion. It also has phytase in it. Right? So amalaki, when Charaka's textbook, he says, haritaki samam amalaki phalam. He says that whatever I told about haritaki, it is somewhat similar in amalaki too. That's what he says and then leaves it. But later textbooks, amalaki has been elevated into a higher, level as an anti-aging herb. Right? So amalaki must consume during middle age. Like if somebody comes to our practice and says that I'm having a lot of stress, I'm having a lot of gut issues, amalaki should be their rasayana. Because it addresses the pitta right at the site of production, so that it is not transported. I'm telling it again, this cycle of producing in the gut and then transporting and storing it in the tissues should not happen. If that happens, then inflammation starts. These are some of the studies that have been done in the scientific journals I put down. This is by one of my colleagues, Dr. K.V. Guruprasad. So his study shows that when amalaki rasayana, a compound preparation made from amalaki, it helps the telomere length to increase, right? And also human blood, the mononuclear cells, that is the specific cells that I've taken to see the telomere length. It definitely positively impacts. It says promotes healthy aging by showing that the telomeres are growing. Second study that has been done on it's a RCT, which shows that the significant improvement in endothelial function, right? So oxidative stress comes down. These are all the terms which are used in the modern biochemistry. If the oxidative stress or negative oxygen species is more in the blood and in circulation in the tissues, then the body will undergo faster tissue deterioration or destruction. So all studies are done to see what happens to the oxidative stress when you put these herbs. So unfortunately, these are the RCTs that we have nowadays to improve the the body's ability to respond to these herbs. Okay, so not only telomeres, but also damage to the cells will be prevented by taking amalaki. Last one, which is the kapha rasayana for the gut, will be vibhitaki. Vibhitaki, unlike haritaki and amalaki, it has only one taste, that is astringent, kashaya, which is perfectly balanced to reduce the kapha dosha. If you look at, it has light and dry qualities, warm in property, but also undergoes sweet under post digestion. It takes away abnormal kapha, which is heavy, thick, sticky, stagnant, cold. It takes away that, but it puts back healthy kapha into the system. Because remember, if the kapha is healthy, then comes the cohesiveness. If kapha is healthy, then the healthy, adipose tissue or medodhatu exists. Okay, so kapha by taking the rasayana, that is the vibhitaki. I'm just looking at the time. Then the studies that I have put together here. So this is again a study that has been done on, this is a animal experimentation. So they saw that when we use vibhitaki, it significantly reduces certain types of harmful gut bacteria that can cause infections, which is showing that when kapha reduces, there's nothing for these organisms to feed on and then proliferate. So it's a perfect balance of haritaki, vibhitaki, amalaki. That could be the reason why in Ayurveda we emphasize of administering Triphala, right? We all know Triphala. Our dear Triphala can definitely do this for us all lifelong. Many people ask, is Triphala habit forming? And I say, not at all. As long as you have a healthy diet, it is, not habit forming. Sometimes if people don't have a healthy habit, diet habits, and then depend on Triphala to produce bowel movements, then it may be a questionable, answer to say if Triphala can be taken every day. Okay, so continuing here, terminally achievable on the autophagy. This is a important action nowadays for anti-aging and for healthy, cell function, which is called autophagy. Autophagy is where the cells become more hungry and then eat away all the abnormal, unwanted material, including ama or undigested material, is called autophagy. That's a fancy word given to something that has ama pachaka. Right, and then for us, from an Ayurvedic point of view, the Vibhitaki can really do that action of reducing ama in the body, reducing kapha, abnormal kapha in the body, producing normal kapha. So here, this study shows that it increases autophagy and reduces free radicals inside the body. From talking about all about the gut, now we are entering into another star aspect or star concept in the anti-aging process, which is saturation of prana. So in the classical textbooks, we find this what is called as prana kama rasayana or prana kamya rasayana. That means Charaka has listed few, like I think 27 formulations that are for promoting prana in the body, and Sushruta talks about 9 of them for promoting prana inside the body. So both of them are capable of improving prana. So prana responsible for sustaining forces, it circulates between prano atra murdagaha. It comes from the head, goes through the throat, goes to the heart, spreads to all parts of the body, through the blood, and supports all vital functions. Right? Pipali, rasayana for improving the prana in the body will be Pipali. If you complement Pipali with Haritaki, that's even better. Right? Amalaki, Haritaki and Pipali are really good combinations for us. So there are some great studies that I've put together here. The systemic review of Piper Longum, this is done by Vaishali Yadav. They've seen how Pipali can multifaceted action. It has got, anti-stress, nootropic, because Ayurveda also says Pipali is a rasayana, it is a medya, it is prana, pranavasroto rasayana. So you can see immunomodulatory effect, which is needed for, helping the body to fight against diseases when the prana is abundant in the body. Next is tissue-specific rasayanas. This is what is really fascinating for me. Number 1, rasayana for rasadhatu will be Shatavari. Shatavari has got tremendous potential to produce high-quality nutritional liquid that can reach to all parts of the body. That may be the reason why a mother who has just given birth, postpartum care, number 1 rasayana is Shatavari. If you look at the best oil for anti-aging is Mahanarana Thailam. Mahanarana Thailam, the number 1 ingredient is the juice of Shatavari in it. Why? Because it brings that abundance of nutrition from inside out, from outside into. Okay, so this is there are studies. I'll share these slides with you. You will see that there is a study that shows the food preparations that include some Shatavari in it automatically enhance tissue nourishment. Rasayana for Rakta will be Bringaraj. Bringaraj is considered to be number 1 for Rakta. From a Ayurvedic practice point of view, if somebody comes to us, they have a family history of some blood disease, you should put them on Bringaraj as a rasayana. Bringaraj has shown that its ability to modulate red blood cells and then lymphocytes in multiple studies, especially in this study that has been done to show that it is capable of improving blood quality. Rasayana for Mamsadhatu, none other than Ashwagandha. So you should have it in your practice, and then you will know. I don't have to talk much about it, But nowadays you'll find sort of negative propaganda because people just use it indiscriminately, and they will blame the ashwagandha for negative effects that they're having. But Ayurveda says that ashwagandha should be taken to promote mamsa dhatu. This is a study that shows people improved their performance and muscle strength increased, and resistance training that they studied. So that's for Mamsa Dhatu. Medo Dhatu, the most important one for Medo Dhatu is Guduchi. Guduchi is capable of curating high quality Medo Dhatu. For me, if one is capable of taking the Amrita or Guduchi on regular basis, I don't recommend it every day. You take it and stop it, like 3 months on, 2 months or 3 months off. If you do that, then it can really benefit a person in curating their rasadhatu, medodhatu. You can see here, this is a study that shows that it can help with obesity and in correcting the tissue metabolism in the medodhatu. Then comes the Majja Dhatu here. Majja Dhatu Asti Dhatu is Gugulu. For me, Gugulu works really well in improving bone restoration and bone health. Majja is nothing but Kapikachu. There are studies that show Kapikachu can improve the health of, L-DOPA and cognitive function. Then Ayurveda also says that whatever can be used for aphrodisiac purposes can be used as rasayana as well. Yad rushyam tad rasayana. Okay? So some of the rasayana pills have been listed even here. Studies show that multi, combinations of mucina prurita, which is Kapikachu, can help in improving cognitive function. I can tell you more about Medya Rasayanas, the 4 of them that has been mentioned for cognitive function, which is Manduka Prani, Centella Asiatica, Bacopa monieri, the licorice, and then the Clitoria ternitia, Shankapushpi. Other, potential rasayanas that can be thought about, which are more complex, but can be used. But I've restricted what is practical and usable in our practice. I will leave this for Q&A, that is when and how rasayanas should be administered. And thank you for your patient listening. Namaste.
Thank you, Jay. Boy, there was so much wonderful information in there. So I suspect everyone will need to take a bit of time to digest it. But we do have a few questions if you're ready to take them. So,
Yeah.
All right. So one of our participants asked, where would one be able to purchase the key herbs and roots? And also, if they wanted to make their own oils, where would they be able to source organic herbs and roots? So do you have any recommendations or thoughts about that?
Absolutely. There are many US-based companies that have, it's better to buy product from US-based companies because they do the due diligence of testing them for contaminants and even like adulterants and things like that. So I would say few resources are available. If you just go online, put this name on the Google search, you will find definitely few of these herbs available here.
Great, thank you. And then someone asked, do you offer virtual consultations? And if so, how do you do pulse reading or other items that might be needed in person?
Ayurveda gives you many folds of examination. There's 10-fold examination, there's 3-fold examination, there's 8-fold examination. Pulse is not absolutely necessary. You can do it with, darshana, sparshana, prashna, by just looking at a person, asking questions can be a method of doing it. Or we can do prakriti, sara, samhanana, the 10-fold examination where pulse is not required. So it depends on what skill sets you have in terms of examining a patient and getting to a place where you understand what dosha, what dhatu, what koshta, shrotas is involved, and then you treat it.
Great, thank you. And we will also provide everyone with links to your pages, web pages. So if they want to contact you directly, they will be able to do that. Another question that came in, Jay, is the best time to take Triphala, would that be before bedtime, or taking it in the morning, would that be as good as well?
Yeah, ideally, because when the gut is resting, that's when Triphala needs to be taken. So then it'll work as the Anulomana Rasayana that we need it to be. It'll do that.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. And then I think we have time for a few more questions. Another one here is, when is Panchakarma recommended? And is this something that could be done at home with support, or do you recommend having it done in an Ayurvedic clinic?
Great question. It all depends on resources. Ayurveda is so fluid of a science that you can use it for, at home, Panchakarma can be done, or it can be extended where you go to a place where ideally, if you do it on a seasonal change, like from winter to spring, or from fall to winter, you can go to a place where they can administer it for you.
Mm.
Because all Ayurvedic Panchakarmas do have a physical impact, where somebody may feel tired or exhausted because things are moving, and the body physiology is also resetting. So in that sense, if you can do daily parts of panchakarma on yourself by daily, like abhyanga, or oil pulling, or those can be done on a daily basis. But when the season changes, go get it done from an Ayurvedic center.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense for that support. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience tonight?
Yeah, we deserve to live a happy long life, and we all have to embrace longevity without any question. And we are designed to live for 100 years. And if we achieve it, then the life becomes complete, because Ayurvedic knowledge is said to be lokayor ubayor hitam. That means not only in this time and space, Ayurvedic knowledge will come helping you beyond this time and space elsewhere, as the life traverses to a next, realm.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I think we may have one last question, and then we will let you get to your other things that you have on your calendar for tonight.
Yeah.
So is there a beginner's book that you recommend for Ayurveda?
Beginner's book for Ayurveda, yes, of course. You can start off with a great book that has some wonderful insights. Is a book by Dr. Robert Svoboda. It's called Prakriti. It is a story of his experience with Ayurveda. It's called Prakriti by Dr. Svoboda. Or you can get into some of the books that have been written by Dr. David Frawley or by Dr. Vasant Lad. There are very basic books that you can read about. I would say, if you're from a Western point of view, if you want to read and get into Ayurveda, the venue will be through Dr. Robert Svoboda.
Thank you. That's great advice. And then one last question we have for you here is, to do Panchakarma in India, when should that be done? If you were to do Panchakarma in
Again,
India?
it's difficult to call for. It should be somewhat similar temperatures. Don't go in the middle of the winter from here, go to India, get the treatment, and then come back. It doesn't work that way, right? It needs to be slowly sustained. So if you go to get Panchakarma done in India, it should be July, August, September in India, which is Varsha Rutu, rainy season. So you can get Panchakarma done at that time. And then when you come back, it's not too hot here, and it's pretty, good transition.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for all of your generosity and sharing all of your knowledge and expertise. Really just such wonderful information. We've given folks the links of where to reach you and for some of your own resources. And we so appreciate your time and generosity for us. And thank you everyone who donated to our fundraiser this evening. It was a very successful evening. We really appreciate you being here, and we hope that you take away some wonderful information this evening. So thank you all for being here, and we wish you all well. Namaste.
Namaste.